Certified financial planner professionals are certified to provide comprehensive financial planning that can address just about any facet of one's financial life, including retirement, estate planning, taxes, education, and more. For more info, go to letsmakeaplan.org to find a CFP professional for you.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. Subscribe now by going to the Listen tab in the ESPN app.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
We are back in better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And away we go on a Wednesday. Gruden and Herbie, an hour from now, we'll get your football fix. Plus, we've got home run records. We've got free chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
And did a coach actually ice a kicker up 63 points? We'll get to all those and a whole lot more. But first, I simply say, good morning, Golic.
Good morning to you, Greeny. A lot to discuss today, including a few ancillary things like your eyes.
I can't read.
And we're going to get into that. And a movie review that I have that I don't know how to review.
Golic has raised his review of this film from 0 donuts to 1 donut.
Yeah, pretty much it.
Based upon your intensive resurch and study of the film.
It was the movie Mother with Jennifer Lawrence, and who doesn't go see a movie with Jennifer Lawrence?
Gotta love Jennifer Lawrence.
Javier Bardem, from was it No Country
for Old Men?
Loved him in that. It was, we literally, me, Mike, and my wife watched that movie. We got up after with about 8 other people in there, and we literally looked at one another and said, what the hell did we just see? It was mind-blowing. Really was. And I was going to walk in here fully ready to give my first 0 rating, 0 donuts of all time, but then I realized I can't do that because I won't be able to eat a donut. So I'm going to have to give it at least 1, and I'll explain why in a little bit as well. But it was weird.
It actually makes me smile when you say that because it reminds me we're going to be doing Mike and Mike trivia today.
Yes, we are.
As you know, we're giving away these bobbleheads and everything over the next 2 months. And so we're coming up with it made me think yesterday about all sorts of fun and funny things that have happened over the years. And one of the things I'll always remember, I don't know if I want to give it away because it would be an incredible trivia question.
Well, then save it. Don't give it away.
It would have to, but the person who listens, it would have to be the most intense Mike and Mike fan ever to remember the only movie you ever walked out of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you once said, you told me the name.
Yeah,
for some reason, the fact that you had seen it in the first place made me laugh so hard, which would lead to my question. Did you come close to walking out of this yesterday?
No, I didn't. I didn't because, the seats now are great. They all recline.
Oh, they had the reclining seats.
Plainville here.
Not all theaters have that now.
But that's the only theater I'm going to, okay? So just for this reason, if a movie is bad, I can just still lay there. And 2, we were just waiting for some big ending. We were thinking, okay, it's going to have this monster ending, and it's still, I didn't get it. I mean, I was like, what? And we walked out, and Mike, who was way into movies and looking into them, we both turned to him, and he actually gave basically kind of what he thought it was, and it was, because I ended up doing what I never do after a movie. I went and read about it. And it turns out the director who had directed Black Swan and Requiem for a Dream and the rest of some wacky movies like Black Swan was, and is just kind of weird that way. And this was. And he wanted everybody to go into this movie blind, and Jennifer Lawrence wanted people to actually know what was going on, and I'm with her. If I had known what was going on, that's when I'd have given it 1 donut.
Yeah, so you would have merely hated it.
To me,
as opposed to detested it.
God-awful, but at least I would have known what I was looking for as it was god-awful.
I'm still smiling just at the fact that you just said, at least if I don't like the movie, I can just lie there.
Without question.
There are a lot of places you can lie, right? You can go back to your house and lie comfortably.
I've already invested, this one, 15 minutes in, we were all like, okay, this is weird, but man, it's going to have a good ending, and it got even more weird. But I was laying down. So, I mean, what beats that? It's like, you look at Chris. Chris looks at me. I'm like, you want to leave? I'm like, hell no, I'm pretty comfortable right now,
Fair enough.
Give me another milk dud.
If you're lying there eating bonbons, things can't be that bad. All right, we're going to try and go through off the top here if I can read it, and I'll share with you in a moment the reason why perhaps I couldn't. But it starts with Major League Baseball, Mike, which has had more home runs this year now, it is official, than any other season. And as Timmy Kirkshin said last night, the record is going to get obliterated.
Yeah, it absolutely is. is the record was 5,693. We're up to 5,707. They're going to go over 6,000 this year. The numbers are staggering. A home run every 27 at-bats. That's a record. A home run, 2.52 home runs per game is going to be a record. 375 multi-home run games by individuals this season. That's a record. There are so many records, and we'll get into the numbers, but the bigger question turns out to be why? Why all the home runs? Is it one thing? Is it another? Is it a combination? Are players just bigger and stronger? Are PEDs involved? Are they changing their swing? Is it like we say home run or strikeout? Is it, the
matricians?
Thanks. I say it's saber math.
For some reason you struggle with that word. It's okay.
I do, but I want to be that guy.
We all know who you mean.
I want to be that smart.
I think if you can't say the word, you're
sabermetrician.
Okay, good.
Okay?
Yeah. Well, now that's it. You've got the job.
They're doing all kinds of things, saying the ball is actually a little smaller and the
seams,
thank you, are lower. Which I'm explaining this horribly. Bottom line is, they said ball is going through less resistance in the air. Is that it? I mean, is that the reason?
Mark Teixeira is going to break it all down for us.
Better than me, I hope.
We'll hear what he has to say, and then we'll see what he thinks. I think the answer is pretty simple.
Off the top.
Next, the Yankees beat the Twins for the second day in a row. They're now 6 games ahead of Minnesota for the first wild card. So they're a lock, basically, to get in as these teams play it out down the stretch of the season. Still, that second wild card race is fairly interesting.
That's the battle. The Angels lost to my Cleveland Indians. The Angels are a game and a half behind Minnesota. Yankees are looking in pretty good shape right now. Congrats to CC Sabathia. He reached 2,836 career strikeouts, third most by left-handed pitchers in Major League Baseball history. You know who the first two are?
Randy Johnson.
Yes.
Steve Carlton.
There you go.
Yeah.
You got it. That's it right there.
All right, and there's one fascinating possibility, by the way. I think it was Jeff Passan who was writing about it. There is an outside chance that they could wind up in a 7-way tie for the second wild card, and that would be phenomenal.
You know what you're going to need for that?
A sabermetrician.
There you go.
Off the top.
And a good travel agent, because there'll be a lot of flying around to play these games. All right, the Dolphins have suspended linebacker Lawrence Timmons indefinitely. Mike, I'm fascinated is the wrong word. I really want to know exactly what's going on here.
I do as well.
We don't have all the details.
We don't have all the details. He basically took off on the team right before their game. They knew where he was, but he just left. He just basically left them. While not quite the Derrick Rose situation for the Knicks where they didn't know where he was, they knew where he was, but he wasn't where he needed to be. They have now suspended him, and through the CBA, they can suspend for up to 4 games for detrimental conduct. And then later yesterday, they actually traded for Stephon Anthony from the Saints, who was a first-rounder, I believe, in 2015. So the Miami Dolphins traded for that linebacker to take his spot. So it is first and foremost, you hope he's okay, health-wise.
Well, the way the story was initially described is what makes you go down that line. Like, I remember there was a story out there that said that they don't believe that the circumstances had anything to do with early onset CTE symptoms, which just the fact that you're even going into that part of the conversation, I said, okay, well, now I really want to know more, and I don't know more. He left the team. He came back Sunday. He wanted to play. They didn't let him play.
And whatever the reasons were, it didn't appease management enough for the Dolphins. So
and Gase himself, like he's not satisfied with the explanation.
Right.
So we'll see if we can get more on this. It's as you said, first and foremost, you hope that he is mentally, psychologically, and physically healthy. And secondly, I'm very curious to hear
off the top,
what the circumstances are here. And then finally, DeMaurice Smith has been re-elected the executive director of the NFL Players Association by a unanimous vote of the selection committee. It's a 3-year term. So, Mike, does this mean, as far as we can tell, that he is now going to be clearly in that role through the end of the CBA and be the person definitively negotiating throughout with Rodgers?
It doesn't clearly state that, but I think that's what we're going to get. Normally, these elections are every 3 years, but in March. This next election was supposed to be this coming March of 2018. But the council here, the selection committee, they can vote him in early as obviously right now in September, October. They can vote him and re-up him without having to go through the election. And that's exactly what happened. Now, they're 3-year terms. So even if it was in March of this election and he won it, you're talking March of 19, March of 20, March of 2021. which is right in the beginning of the offseason of when the CBA ends at the end of the 2020 season. So that would be right when the negotiation would start. So Hembo was looking before the show. I think the NFLPA is in a position where they can manipulate, would that be the word I could use, Hembo, manipulate the contract to extend it, because that's what you would want to do. There's no way you would want another election or even have it up for debate, even if it's September of 2020 or October and they do this again. I think you would just extend the contract into the following 2021 season so you can at least have him negotiating the CBA. So bottom line is, I think we're going to have the two principals. They're going to have a lot of help. You're going to have Roger Goodell. I still think he'll be extended. And you're going to have DeMaurice Smith. It looks like that these two will be the ones when that negotiation goes on.
All right, and we'll see if we can get deep for you this morning as well. And that's what everyone's talking about. It's brought to you by Dave & Buster's. Watch the games and play the games at your football headquarters. That's Dave & Buster's. I will apologize in advance if I seem a touch off my game today. I have the strangest of circumstances. So I went to my eye doctor.
Yep.
And she told me that I wear contact lenses. And she told me that I'm a little bit undercorrected and that I should she gave me a prescription for slightly stronger contact lenses. But I had quite a few of the other ones left. She also gave me these reading glasses.
Right.
But I didn't need them.
Welcome to 50.
With the previous contact lenses.
Right.
So I just have I was bringing them to work for a little while there, and I discovered I really didn't need them, so I just have stopped bringing them. Well, I'm now almost running out of the old contact lenses, so this morning I popped in the new ones.
Okay.
Well, I see magnificently well.
She was right. You were
look phenomenal. Right? Look at Hembo. I mean, I see so well, it's ridiculous. But I can't read. I don't have the reading glasses with me, and I
see
can't
far,
read.
But you can't see close.
I cannot make out the words on the computer. I can't make out the words on the piece of paper.
My readers didn't help you.
Worse. Handed me his, and it actually made them worse. Okay. So if I do any of the reads wrong today or anything like that, if I turn here and I want to hit off the top and I wind up hitting this instead or something like that, I deserve one day of I can't see.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
That would have solved all this?
Yeah.
Why didn't you get the LASIK?
Two things. One, I'm a little bit afraid. Two, you would still need the reading glasses. I still wouldn't be able to read with
because
that.
I've had it, and I had them. It took a while, but yes, I do have the readers, but still.
One way or another.
Just have the surgery.
I can't read. It's very frustrating.
And I say that without any issues.
I'm saying. Now I know how you feel. Yeah. I got to tell you, it's very tough. Okay, Mike and Mike, let's get to it. Why all these home runs? Why is the ball flying out of the ballpark at a record pace? Now, literally, it has set the record, and as we said, it's going to obliterate the all-time record for most home runs in a season. Our Mark Teixeira with some thoughts.
I think there's three things to look at this year that there's a reason why so many guys are hitting home runs now. First of all, guys are just bigger and stronger. They're working out harder. They're working out younger. You have kids in high school hitting the ball 500 feet. So guys are just stronger nowadays. Number two, with the advent of the shift, players don't try to slap the ball around anymore. They've realized that if you get the ball in the air, you have a better chance of getting on base, you have a better chance of doing damage, and there's not a lot of singles out there on the infield, so guys are trying to hit the ball in the air. And then the third thing, the balls are juiced this year. Now, I don't have any inside information. I just talked to guys throughout baseball. Pitchers are saying it, hitters are saying it. You pick up the ball, it just feels different. I know MLB is going to tell you, no, there's nothing wrong. But when you see guys hitting balls on their front foot into the third deck, 500 feet, it just doesn't happen like that every year. And so you got to think the baseballs are a little bit harder this year.
Well, again, to the baseball part, what the sabermetricians and the studies have shown is the ball is, in their eyes, in their tests, a little smaller, and the seams are lower. They're not as raised, which would mean less resistance when the ball is going through the air. And it could be a small amount and still have a great effect. But I highly doubt it's the one thing. I imagine it's a few things. I know players are bigger, faster, stronger. Again, doesn't always mean better. Now, the one huge difference in the home runs is we have so many more home runs and so many more people hitting home runs, but we don't have a lot of people hitting a lot of home runs. Back in 2000, the number of players hitting, and Hembo, you can get it for me, hitting over 40 home runs just blows away the amount of players hitting over 40 home runs this year. So the the strength in the number of home runs was bigger then of the 40 home run guys than it is here. But here you have so many more players. So however you want to dig that up, obviously the PEDs, were right in that era then. But there are those that still think there are PEDs involved in this era as well. Science is always ahead of testing. Is there something different, something new out there? I don't know. Something that you can't test for yet? I don't know. But are we looking at something like that? Or is it simply guys are bigger, guys are stronger, the ball's a little different, and that's making all of this happen? But it's such a huge amount, and it's so many more players hitting home runs that it's really tough not to say, well, what the hell's going on here?
It's the ball. It's the ball. I mean, it's not that complicated. It's the ball. They looked at it and they said, no one is putting the ball in play anymore. So we could either have, a lot of long fly ball outs, which are just as boring as anything else, or B, a lot of balls flying over the fence, which people get very excited about. And I don't mean this in a negative way. There's nothing wrong with this. It doesn't tilt or shift the balance of power. It doesn't give one team an advantage over another. Yeah, I'm sure pitchers would love not to have it be that way.
Sure.
But if it's the same ball for everyone, it's not like I'm saying they're using a different ball in Boston than they are in Arizona.
Right.
What I'm saying is if everyone is using the same ball, but the ball is a little more prone to going out of the ballpark, I don't think that's a problem. I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's something you have to hide. Now, the traditionalists in baseball will say, well, it's skewing the numbers unnaturally, and so I understand why they're not going to tell you they're doing it. But it would make all the sense in the world to do it. We live in a world of baseball right now where the ball is never in play. That's the biggest problem they have. Everything is either a home run or a strikeout. So you could either have a home run or a strikeout, or you could have a long fly ball or a strikeout. Take your choice.
And again, the number was 16 players in 2000 had over 40 home runs, and this year it's 3. So there's a big difference there. Are singles down? Are doubles down? Are all of those down? I mean, because we know the people are striking out a lot as well.
The strikeout numbers are I've never seen anything like this.
Is it to the point where if you took a baseball from 2012 and set it down and a baseball from this year, would we be able to look at it and tell the difference?
No.
See, I think that's what a lot of people are wondering. They're saying, wait a minute, it doesn't look different. But certainly to a pitcher, especially if the seams are lower, even by a little bit, a pitcher is absolutely going to notice that.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you took a golf ball, if you took the brand new, the Pro V1 or the TP5 or any of the balls that the guys are playing now, Mickelson plays at Callaway, the top level balls that each of the different ball makers right now in golf make, and you put that on a table and you took their best ball 5 years ago, would you be able to tell the difference?
No,
but these guys can. The players can.
No.
There's a difference. It's the same thing.
You should be throwing the players out. I meant us. I meant
no
the
way.
Casual fan.
No,
if you
absolutely
set those balls down, because that's what you think. The ball's different. Well, everyone's expecting to look and touch the baseball and say, "Oh, it is different." When it can be so minuscule,
correct,
but have such an effect on air drag. But is that it? Is that the only thing? Do we think that's the only
thing
going on?
Well, the other thing that's going on is it's clear that everyone is swinging for the fences on every at-bat. Right. So when you do that, that's why you have more guys hitting a few home runs. So they used to have guys, first of all, the whole game has changed, right? So your shortstop used to be a guy who was 5'9" and hit 246 and batted 8th in your order, but he was a great defensive player. That guy doesn't exist anymore. That guy is now hitting 270-something, and he's big and he's jacked, and he hits 14 home runs in a season where I used to hit 1. Like when the guy would hit his 1 home run in a season, everyone would throw a party.
Right.
Now that guy's hitting 14. Well, if you add that guy over and over and over and over again, you get 5,673 or whatever the number is now. I think it's that. It is the bottom has risen. It's not the top. It's the bottom that has risen.
Oh, I mean that the 40 over or the 16 over 40 and the 3 over 40 say that.
Those guys were on steroids.
Exactly,
let's just say it for what it is.
No, they were.
In 2000, the big hitters were on steroids.
Yeah, they were.
And that's why there were guys hitting 50 and 60 home runs routinely. Now you have one guy in Giancarlo Stanton who maybe is a once-in-a-lifetime or once-in-a-generation kind of talent from a power standpoint, and that's why he's hit 50. He's still on 55, right? He's 55 home runs and might make it to 60, and no one else does. So no one is hitting singles anymore. The game doesn't exist. There's no base on balls anymore. No one's trying to work a walk anymore. They're swinging at everything, and that's what the game has become. And that to me is the reason why. But the single biggest reason is the ball.
I would agree with that.
Is first and foremost.
I would agree with that. I think there are a lot of people that wonder, are there PEDs? How much are they still involved? Because don't fool yourself and think they've gone away. I mean, they may have gone way down, but they haven't gone away.
So they just gotten more sophisticated?
Oh, sure, they always do. I mean, think about it. Go back again to when I took them in 88. I mean, it was an oil-based anabolic steroid that, you're injecting as opposed to now, where with Bonds, you had the cream and the clear to, I don't know what it is now. I have no idea, and I don't know how long it stays in your system. I mean, as I said, science always stays ahead. So I don't know. I think I agree with you, though. I think the biggest factor, and from these guys doing these tests on the baseball, that it is the baseball that is leading the way to this. Not to say that there aren't other things involved as well.
So there's a lot of stuff at play here and how it's impacting the overall sport, and I do not blame Rob Manfred and the people who work with and for him in New York for looking at the state of the game right now. I'm not talking about the economics of the game. I'm talking about the way the game is played with the limitations on the amount of action that exists in the game and saying, we got to do something here. We got to do something.
So is this better than, because what was the stat up there? How many less balls in play?
Much less.
So we had the number. So do we think fans are good with either sitting there and watching a home run or a strikeout and not the ball in play? The average game this season has 50 balls in play and 17 strikeouts, fewest in Major League history. So do we think it's better? I don't know. I'm asking this question to baseball fans that watch them on TV all the time and go to them games all the time. I don't do that. But is this better? Would you rather just sit there and wait for the ball to go flying over the wall, and the other side of that is the guy striking out, as opposed to, the ball's hitting the gap and players running around the bases and that kind of action? I guess that's the question, right?
Yes, if that's the question, then we could discuss it. But that isn't the question. What baseball's question is we could either have strikeouts and long fly balls, or we can have strikeouts and home runs. No one's trying to hit a double in the gap. They're not trying to hit a double in the gap. That's not what the game is. The game is not a base hit, move the runner over.
No, that's my point. Is that what we want? Is that good?
Personally, I don't think it's good.
Well, I guess that's what I'm asking. Would you rather watch this?
This is the difference between. This is what people are doing competitively.
Yeah.
Right? This is what organizations have decided is the best way to win. And no one's ever going to convince them not to do things that will help them win, and no one can, right? So what can they do? Well, one of the things they can do is they can wind the ball just a little bit, whatever is wind is the right word, but whatever it is, pack the ball just a little bit tighter, and that will make a few more balls go out of the ballpark, or in this case,
a lot more.
The best of Mike and Mike.
This should be fascinating, Herbie. As you guys, we always say we're coming to your city. Well, this time you're coming to the city. For the first time ever, this Saturday, College Game Day is going to be in Times Square, right in the center of Manhattan in New York City. So, Herbie, this should be a scene unlike any other. What was for those who haven't heard you guys talking about it, what was the thinking behind this, and what are you expecting Saturday in the Big Apple?
Well, this is something good morning, first of all, guys. But this is something that Chris Fowler, living in New York, and his wife, Jen, they've always talked about how many college football fans, which as an outsider, you don't really equate with New York, but how many alums are in that area, obviously. And on a Saturday, how they have their own, restaurant / bar where their fans go. Whether it's, Florida State or Texas or USC or Ohio State or Michigan or whatever, and they take over that bar and 15 TVs and the fight song. It's like a huge tailgate and a pep rally for their team. And they talked about it for years, maybe bringing game day in there, and it just, for whatever reason, never really worked out. And this time, I know that Lee Fitting and the others that make the decisions, they thought about trying to make this a reality, and here we are. We're gonna do it, and should be a lot of fun. I think there's some people that are concerned that it's going to still feel like an authentic College Game Day because we're not on a college campus, and I think it will because we're going to be right there in Times Square, and I think the people that are going to be around the set with their signs and all the craziness that is normally with College Game Day will be there, and we're just going to kind of celebrate the alums and the fans and how passionate they are because they can't always get out to their games and travel to see their teams, but they still celebrate college football on a given Saturday there in New York, and should be a lot of fun.
I think it's a great idea, but I want to make sure, Herbie, that you're going in with your eyes wide open because wherever you go, you guys are loved by everybody. You're going to New York, where some people will love it and others are going to say you're messing up the traffic and everything, and you're going to get a lot of people flipping you off. I just hope you know that as well. Okay? That's going to be part and parcel to where you're going to be and kind of what's going on.
Yeah, no, I think anytime I land in LaGuardia, I'm ready for that. It's just a given. That region, and you playing in Philly, I think Philly would pass as well. But there's certain cities you get into that a different you comes out, and you're prepared for anything. So I'll be ready.
It should be a lot of fun. Again, if you're in the New York area, come one, come all, come see the guys on Saturday. Meanwhile, I was unbelievably impressed with Clemson on Saturday night. That was a game I was really looking forward to watching, Herbie. And that defense is just unreal. I know that we have seen some great Alabama defenses in recent years in college football, those that have compared, favorably, people will say, to any defenses in history. But you look what Clemson has done now in back-to-back weeks against Auburn and then against Lamar Jackson and company at Louisville. This is the best defense I've seen in college football this year. What is your sense of Clemson right now and their chances of making it back where they've been the last couple of years?
The first thing I want to say, Greeny, is I just want to offer up some respect and hopefully people see what the job that Dabo Swinney is doing at Clemson. It's one thing to sit here and break down X's and O's, but as you know, and it's human nature, anytime you climb the mountain, you haven't done it in years, and you get to the top, it's easy to kind of let the complacency set in. Clemson has arrived to a point as a program where they are arm in arm with Alabama. They are recruiting at a level that is at a different place, different galaxy. They're replacing players. And I don't mean the last 1 or 2, 3 years. I mean the last 6 or 7 or 8 years. They're doing an incredible job of recognizing talent. And more importantly, as we've been talking a lot about 5-star recruits lately and their entitlement, they do a really good job of recruiting character and kids that fit their culture. They'll chase guys away after a recruiting weekend because Dabo will talk to his current players and say, hey, does he fit us? And if his players tell him no, he doesn't, and he's a 5-star who runs a 4.3, Dabo would not continue to recruit him. So what they do is they have found a formula that works for them, not only how fast he is and how strong he is, but does he fit our kind of guy? And if the answer is no, they will not recruit him. So that's something. That's just background information to know why this Paul, this orange and white team and purple just continues to play the way they have. It's by design. And what they've done, I think you're right. Kelly Bryant's performance, this team is going to execute in a different way. They're going to run the football more effectively than when they had Deshaun Watson. Will they continue to be able to throw will be the one mystery as they get into some of the tougher games. But I think the answer is going to be yes. They're clearly, in my opinion, the team to beat in the ACC. They look like they're headed back to the playoff. Their defense, as you said, is frightening. That defensive line, the linebackers, the safeties, the corners. Brent Venables, maybe one of the best defensive minds in the last 3 years. So everything is there. And most importantly, even though they won a championship last year, somehow they found a way to play with a chip on their shoulder. They're mad at everybody, and that's always a good thing, as Mike can tell you when you play football.
And let me tell you, if Brian can throw, improving and throwing these tough games, they're going to be hard to beat because that defense is ridiculous. Yeah. As you said, they can run the ball. Looking at a couple ranked games, Oklahoma State, Mason Rudolph getting all kind of love for throwing the ball around. It's a Big 12, but, so we're kind of used to that. Playing TCU, though, a team at this point is passing the ball just 41% of the time with Kenny Hill coming passing the ball most, but they're a running team now. So how do you see this one going? I'm looking for that Oklahoma State-Oklahoma matchup. But you don't want to discount other teams because there are those that thought TCU would be the team coming out of the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, I was one of those. I kind of went – that was my wild card in the preseason trying to pick a playoff team, and everybody's saying Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, and I thought this might be a team with Gary Patterson where they might get back to playing better defensively, which always gives you a leg up in the Big 12 because there are very few teams typically are able to slow teams down in that conference, but – they've looked good. Now, they haven't really played anybody. I mean, they went on to played Arkansas, but at this point, they haven't really been tested the way they will be this weekend. I think that could be the game of the weekend, really, because, as you said, Oklahoma State looks like a video game right now with Mason Rudolph. They're not just scoring. It's like backyard football. I mean, it's 50-yard passes, 60-yard passes, everything downfield, and people playing a man-to-man. So how will Gary try to slow down that offense, maybe try to possess the ball himself to try to kind of keep it away from what they're doing. This kid Darius Anderson is stepped up with Hicks not playing. So it'll take a balanced attack, but don't just assume, hey, Bedlam, OU, Oklahoma State is going to be the answer to the Big 12. We're going to learn a lot more about what's going to happen in the Big 12 this weekend, because I think TCU is more competitive than people are giving them credit for.
And then the SEC matchup, how much are we buying into another ranked rank is Georgia and Mississippi State that just dismantled LSU? I'm not going to lie, that surprised me a little bit. Georgia, we know with the young quarterback, but they have the two backs that can run the ball well, fast on defense, as normally most SEC defenses are. But how much are we buying into Mississippi State?
I'm buying a lot. I thought they'd beat LSU. I didn't think it'd be that bad, but I thought at home they had a really good chance. How good a coach is Dan Mullen, by the way? Just down there in Starkville, Mississippi, just like the little engine that could, 9th year down there. You got to believe that if he continues to win at the rate that he has been, and if he has a great year this year, more and more teams are going to be looking at him, even though Mississippi State is in the SEC. Who knows where he could end up. His quarterback, as you guys have not seen him in a year where everybody's talking about Josh Rosen and Josh Allen and Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. Get a load of number 7 that plays down at Mississippi State. This kid, Nick Fitzgerald, he played last year, gave you a little taste of what he could do, trying to fill the shoes of Dak Prescott. And now this year is really tough. Talk about a dual guy, throwing, running. They can run the football with Arius Williams. They're tough, and I don't think they walk into Georgia intimidated at all. In fact, I think they got a really good chance to compete and beat Georgia in Athens. So another good game. This weekend there aren't one or two like marquee games. There's like 9 or 10 really good games, and you just touched on 2 of them.
And again, if you are in the New York area, come one, come all, come see the guys. College Game Day live from Times Square this Saturday, which should be great fun. And Kirk Herbstreit will be there. And then, Herbie, if you're not busy afterwards, go see Dear Evan Hansen. It's magnificent. And it's just a couple of blocks away.
I would love to do that if I had a little bit more time. I got to fly up to Iowa City for Penn State and Iowa, or I would take you up on that.
That doesn't
Maybe
sound
Friday night I can do that.
Okay, yeah, we'll figure that out a different time. I was just trying to throw in a little humor.
There you go.
Herbie, thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Herbie.
Enjoy it. We'll see you this weekend.
All right, fellas.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Got a lot going on. We've already given away a bobblehead. We asked a trivia question early on. It was the trivia question about our show. Since it's ending in a couple of months, it was Bob Picozzi's been a big part of the show.
It's all decks on hand, as you know, in a Game 7.
Sure. Right. That's where that comment came from on the show. And when he did a segment on our show, we asked what it was called. And it was Andy who tweeted in first. It was called Bob Picozzi, Did You Know?
That's where we first started playing that drop for all of our trivia questions. Right. And then we continued it with Jason Stark, and I still do it anytime we get a trivia question that we throw out there.
And we got another, in about another hour, we're going to ask another trivia question for the people that have a chance to listen and watch the show a little later in the show. We'll do another one from past years of Mike and Mike. So we have that. I saw the movie Mother last night.
Okay, you want to do a quick? Give us the quick review because I've been waiting for this all morning long.
So we saw Mother. That's with Jennifer Lawrence and who was it? Javier Bardem. Bardem. Is it Bardem? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't know how they pronounce it, but
and a big fans of J-Law, Jennifer Lawrence.
Okay.
And so my son Mike went and my wife went. We went to and we saw previews but didn't really know what to expect. I walked out of there. We stood up. There were about 8 people other than us in the theater. Because, it's 5 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon.
Right.
And we all looked at one another and said, what the hell did we just watch? I was ready to come in here and give it 0 donuts. I thought it was awful. And the only reason we stayed to the end, we were hoping for some big ending from what we were watching. And we walked out of there, and we, of course, turned to Mike because he's big in getting the meanings. You try and figure it out. And he kind of started hitting the nail on the head. And I'm not going to get into what it's about because people may want to see it, though I wouldn't go see it. And then I started, and I did what I normally don't do. We started reading about it, about the making of it and the meaning of it. And once I got the meaning of it, I started to put 2 and 2 together and say, okay, I see it. Jennifer Lawrence said she wished that people would know about it going into the movie. The director didn't want people to know about it, and he said, you're either going to love it or hate it. I'm not going to lie. I hated it. Even if I knew going in, I think I would have enjoyed it a little better, but I still would not have liked it. So, but I was going to give it 0 donuts, but for the fact that once I found out what it was about, and at least I would have known going forward watching it, I'd give it 1 just because I wanted to eat a donut. But I didn't like it at all. I did not like it at all. Michelle Pfeiffer was in it. I mean, and again, I was almost said who I think she is, but I'm not going to say anything for where this thing goes. But man, was that a weird movie. It was tough to follow. And at the end of the day, we just walked out and said, if we weren't in the chairs that lay back, I just left. But it was Jennifer Lawrence, and I liked the other guy, and we were hoping it would have some big ending to it. But man, was it weird.
So it gets.
I'd almost go I'd go, you know what? A donut hole.
Just one little donut hole.
A mini donut.
Yeah, like a munchkin.
Donut hole. Like
they call them munchkins?
Munchkin.
Yeah, just a little donut hole.
A munchkin.
It's that bad.
It's
one
bad.
donut with a bite taken out of it. You thought the movie was that bad.
It was bad.
That's
bad
a shame.
movie.
That's
I know.
a shame.
I listen, you go there wanting to like them all, but you don't. That was a bad one.
All right, Mike and Mike. So there you have that. We need to address, I'm told, my sweater. A lot of people are remarking.
Is that a sweater or a jacket? There are a lot
sweater.
of people saying you're wearing your wife's jacket.
It's not a jacket.
All right.
And it's not my wife's. It's
okay.
a sweater. And it's just a regular black sweater. What's unusual about it?
I think a sweater, I think of like a pullover type of sweater.
It's like a cardigan.
Yeah. When you look at it and you see like the collar and the way and the lapel and stuff, I thought jacket as well.
Okay. It's a jackety kind of a sweater?
I did, yeah.
It's a swacket.
See, the people that are...
Do you think I could do that? Could I make any money marketing that?
No.
It's a sweater that looks like a jacket. It's a swacket.
How about a jetter?
Hashtag copyright. Trademark that. I want that.
Swacket?
Someone's going to take that.
Swacket or jetter?
I think the swacket is much better.
You think?
Would you rather wear a swacket or a jetter?
Guillermo, put up a poll.
Jetter, first of all, has a lot of other things it could be. A swacket is a swacket. A swacket is a sweater that looks like a jacket.
So you walk up to someone and say swacket, you think that you know what it is?
It's going to take over. I'm telling you right now, this is going to take over the world.
I think jetter would be better.
Get John Varvatos on the phone.
Who?
Trust me.
Oh, Johnny.
Yeah.
Johnny V.
JV, right. We call him.
Yeah. Okay. The people that are mocking you are really kind of my people because we don't understand the fashion world, nor do we want to.
I don't know how fashion world, it's like a cardigan.
I'm going to say most people listening to our show wouldn't have that look.
Well,
that's all I'm saying.
I would say that's their loss.
No. I'm not saying it in a bad way, as far as you know. I just don't. Yeah.
I know. Andrea said to me, Greeny, I think you need to address your sweater.
When I look at it, even from here, it doesn't look like sweater material.
You feel it?
Well, no.
It's cotton.
Okay, no. When I do that, yes. But I'm saying, just looking at it, it looks like a jetter.
It's a swacket.
It's a jetter.
No, because a jetter would be a jacket that looks like a sweater.
Yeah.
This is a sweater that looks like a jacket, so it's a swacket.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Okay, one way or another, we've really devolved into something ridiculous.
I want to reach over and slap you. That
wouldn't be the first time. If you want to know what former coaches are seeing as they watch the NFL, we have you covered tomorrow. We got Herm Edwards early. We got Brian Billick in the middle of the show. 6:30 Eastern for Herman, 7:30 for Brian Billick tomorrow. Here, Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. You can test drive Snapshot to see how much you could save before switching to Progressive. Visit progressive.com/snapshot. All right, a bunch of different tweets on the college football conversation that we were just having. Like Malik tweets, I loved the computer in the BCS. We all have a bias. Take the bias totally out of it. Sports writers and coaches polls ruin college football. Go ahead.
Remember in the BCS, correct me if I'm wrong, Hembo, was the Harris poll, which was a human poll. So there were a bunch of computers and there was a Harris poll, which took, I don't know how many humans and let them vote.
Right.
And they had a poll. So there was one element of the human poll. So you could bring in the AP poll if you want, or I don't think you'd have a whole, if you were going to do computers, have a whole committee just be one part of it unless you wanted to, but have a lot of the computer part of it and have one part of the human element in it, and then let it spit out 4 names or eventually 6 names, or I think eventually 8 names, and go from there. I really wouldn't have a problem with that.
Brian tweets, what it shows is there are a lot of people who vote on college football that don't actually watch the games. Again, this is a story I saw. If you find it for me, I'll give the writer credit. It was sent to me. It was from CBS Sports, and they pointed out that 5 voters put Mississippi State behind LSU this week, despite the fact that they just beat them 37-7, and that one voter put Stanford number 15 in the country. It's by Tom Fornelli on CBSSports.com. Despite the fact they put Stanford number 15 in the country, despite the fact that they're 1-2 when they just lost to San Diego State. Yeah. It's one thing to lose to USC. Right. It's another thing to lose back-to-back games, and with no disrespect, one of them to be to San Diego State. How are they 15 in the country? Yeah. But somebody voted them there. But what I'll say again is, and then there's this final one I wanted to read. Scotty says, I still say they shouldn't have rankings until midway through the college football season. I would agree with that if they meant anything.
Yeah, they don't matter.
But the ratings don't really matter. It's just a conversation point. Now, the only area where I could see it bothering you is if you're a player on one of these teams and you're like, hey, man, I deserve to be ranked and no one's giving us this kind of credit. But the coaches may actually love that.
Plus, the other thing is we don't know. The committee, it's 13 human beings. So do they look at the poll? And do they say, well, a team that's 18th but maybe still undefeated, you know, how would they feel about putting them in their top 4 right off the bat in the first rankings? Does that kind of have a sway to them in seeing the poll?
I would hope not.
Listen, we'd all hope not, but the human beings, you know who wouldn't? A computer. They wouldn't care. Right. But a human being may say, man, you know, we're going to get ripped here if we have this number 16 team in the country in the AP poll, you know, number 4 or number 3 in our first ranking. So let's see what they do. So I don't know. I don't know what comes into mind when you, and we all don't, when you have 13 different personalities picking the ranking.
The old BCS formula, for those who remember, was it was 3 components: a team's percentage of points in the USA Today coaches poll, a team's percentage of points in the Harris Interactive poll, and an average of 6 computer ratings.
Okay, the first thing I would do is I would throw out the coaches poll. That's the biggest joke there is.
Yeah,
because coaches don't vote. The SID does. I mean, not every coach doesn't vote. Some do. But my God, you're going to tell me that coaches who spend every minute looking at their team and their games are going to give you the top 25?
Not only that, but they're also obviously and hopelessly biased on the topic.
And I'm not saying it in a bad way. If I were a head coach of a college, I wouldn't know who the hell is in the top 25. You know, I mean, so that would be the first thing to go, a coach's poll. You want to have one human poll, that's fine, and then the computer system.
All right, we are Mike and Mike. I mean, I have very, very bad news. Under Armour already has a Swacket.
Really?
I'm getting deluged with tweets that say Under Armour already makes something called the Swacket. Yes, it's a sweater that looks like a jacket.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, my entire timeline is just, Greeny, Under Armour makes a Swacket. Under Armour already makes a Swacket. Under Armour already has a Swacket.
All right, well, how about it? Let's go with a jetter then. A jacket that's a sweater.
All right.
It doesn't say a jacket that's like a sweater. It's a jacket that's a sweater.
Okay, at me. Is there a jetter?
A jetter.
Let's hear this. Go ahead. Hembo looks like he wants to say something. We have no... Go ahead.
How are we spelling that?
Jetter?
Not Jea, like sweater.
Well, you're right. It would
like
be Jeater.
But it's supposed to be like jacket, so jetter.
Your jacket and then sweater.
I'm not concerned about the spelling. I just want it to work. A jetter.
I have a bad feeling about
this. A jacket that's a sweater.
Yeah, we're on a 7-second delay, so I'm letting people catch up. Now I'm still getting a lot of pictures of the the Under Armour Storm lightweight Swacket. They have a Swacket. What did you say? A Jardigan. A Jardigan. That's not bad.
That's not
bad.
That's
not bad.
That is not bad.
It's a jacket that looks like a cardigan.
I'm not going to lie. I bet that's out there.
Is there a Jardigan?
I bet there's a Jardigan.
Why is it that every good idea I have already exists?
I felt like I've heard that. But you know what I haven't heard? A jetter.
Yeah, you're right, but it means other things, right?
Does it?
It would sound like you're a jet setter. It sounds like it would have another meaning.
Really?
Yeah, there's a Jardigan.
There's a Jardigan.
Here's a lot of pictures of Jardigans. Is
there a jetter? Mine's still up for grabs.
All right, we'll see. If it turns out there's no jetter, I'll go in with you on.
By the way, all the pictures of the people in Jardigans are women.
Yeah, I know exactly. Which does not do a whole lot for my argument about the relative masculinity of my Swacket, which I still insist is a Swacket, and I like it. I don't care what anybody says.
Jetter.
I wear your scorn like a badge of honor. I wear your scorn like a Swacket.
You wear your scorn like a women's jacket.
Like a like a Swacket or like a Jardigan, one way or the other. All right, where else were we here? Let's get to Kevin Durant, because I find this story startling. All right, so by now you probably know what happened. So what it looks like, and while Kevin Durant has not totally acknowledged that he had a fake Twitter account, it certainly appears
the way
as though
he's acknowledging
exactly. That he did, that he had created a Twitter account in which he was writing back to people who were criticizing him on Twitter. And one time he forgot that he was logged in as himself as opposed to in his fake account. And he wrote back to some people referring to Kevin Durant in the third person. And the enormous mistake that he made is in it. He criticized his former teammates at Oklahoma City, basically saying we had nobody besides Russ, and says, hey, Kevin didn't like playing for Billy Donovan.
Right.
Which sounds fine until it's actually Kevin himself saying
it. His quote on all this, he said, I use Twitter to engage with fans. I think it's a great way to engage with basketball fans. I happen to take it a little too far. That's what happens sometimes when you get into these basketball debates about what I really love to play basketball. I don't regret clapping back at anybody or talking to my fans on Twitter. I do regret using my former coach's name and the former organization I played for. That was childish. That was idiotic. All those types of words. I apologize for that.
Okay. So, listen, here's the thing. Is this some terrible crime? Obviously not. Is this something that he said he apologized to Billy Donovan already.
Right.
Is he going to have to deal with Billy Donovan, and who was probably, hurt by this? Are his former teammates in Oklahoma City maybe going to feel bad seeing this, and some others? At the end of the day, this will be easily forgotten by the overwhelming majority of the public. So I don't care about it one way or the other.
No.
But I am really startled that a person like Kevin Durant, I guess it just goes to show you, a person like Kevin Durant is so concerned with the criticism of just random people. And the only thing I would say to Kevin, I used this phrase yesterday, I'll use it again. I like to use golf analogies anytime I can. Kevin Durant is eagling the whole of life, right? Like, how much better can life be? You just won a championship. You make all the money in the world, so much that you are turning money down. Like, we should all be at a place in our lives where we say, you want to give me that much money? You know what? I'll take less. What percentage of people on planet Earth can or ever would do that? Like 0.00001. You're in that. You're one of the greatest players ever. People love you. Everywhere you go, people stop and admire you. And all of these people who are tweeting whatever it is they're tweeting at you behind the total anonymity of their keyboard or their smartphone, if they ran into you in a mall or a restaurant or an airport, would beg to take a picture with you, would put it up on their walls, and would show all of their friends, look, I met Kevin Durant. So I'm just startled that someone in his position would be that concerned about these kinds of comments on something like Twitter.
LeBron does it too. LeBron, he gets sensitive in that Twitter world as well. And there are others, obviously lesser players, but they're still pro athletes, still way high on the ladder of life in what they've succeeded at, that they answer back. I mean, again, I've stopped being surprised at this because of the social media generation we are in. This is how they like to communicate with one another. And so I accept that. I see it. So it doesn't shock me. I'm with you. I wonder, why would you? Why would you do that? But then I say, this is how they all communicate. And they all seem to have no problem with it. And then, unfortunately, at some point, they hit send at the wrong time, or they do something wrong, or something goes where they have to apologize for it. But when you're tweeting that much and reading that much and hitting send that much, occasionally it's going to happen.
I'll give Kevin Durant, if he's listening, and obviously he isn't, and he has far more important people than me that can advise him. But I'll tell you the day that I figured out that you can't worry about this stuff. And it was before social media was a thing. But I remember I was homesick one day, and this was right at, what year was the earthquake in Haiti, the devastating earthquake in Haiti? Whenever that was, I was homesick one day, and I'm watching. And the actor George Clooney is on the Larry King show, back when Larry King was on CNN. So this is that long ago. And I'm watching, and he's talking about this enormous fundraiser that he was putting together for Haiti. He was raising, I believe he raised literally millions of dollars for Haiti, which, what human being doesn't think that's a fantastic thing, right? Didn't your daughter do a bunch of stuff in Haiti?
Yes, she did.
I mean, so this was 2010. So, 7-8 years ago. And he's on there, and I'm watching this, and I'm homesick. And I'm listening to, him talking, and he's very impassionately talking about what they're doing and all the work that they're doing and the work that still needs to be done in Haiti and whatever it was. And I was impressed with what he was talking about. So I went online and I went on CNN's then website. I think this was before Twitter, or at least before I was on Twitter. And so I went on CNN's website and I found, I just wanted to read a little more about what George Clooney is doing. And then I read the comments. Back before there was social media, there were the comments that people
commented
just
on an
post.
article, yeah.
And I sat there and I'm reading with horror the horrible, nasty things people are writing back to George Clooney. Not that he's posted anything like this. They just posted the interview with him and Larry King talking about this work that he's doing, and it was everything from you self-centered, self-aggrandizing, this and that, to whatever. And that it really clicked in my head. It was actually a epiphany is too strong a word, but it was the moment that I figured this out. Like, you can't do anything in this world that people aren't going to have that reaction.
Sure.
For whatever reason. I don't understand it. The whole trolling thing predates Twitter. It has obviously gotten magnified in Twitter. But if you're someone like George Clooney or you're someone like Kevin Durant, that's just how people are that's going to happen. And if you allow that to influence you in any way, I mean, in my opinion, if it matters enough to you that you're responding to them, that you're even whether you're creating a fake Twitter handle or not, that you're responding to it, that suggests to me that somewhere it's affecting him. And if you're George Clooney and you're doing a fundraiser for Haiti, or you're Kevin Durant and you're just living your life as a great basketball player or whatever it is, there is, in my opinion, my advice is you should ignore that noise because it is irrelevant.
Yeah, well, that again, it's easy to say. But they're human beings. Just like we talked about the committee, they're human. Everybody, something may touch a nerve more than others. Where you say, I normally don't, but every now and then something hits a nerve, and I do. And I do go back on Twitter with some people. Afterward, I'm like, man, I shouldn't have done that. But every now, the best way is to not look at anything, but that's unrealistic. People are going to. So to sit there and say, don't read it, don't look at it, it's like when you hear the player or coach say, I don't listen to this or I don't read that. That's a bunch of bull. They do, but if you can do it and not answer back, more power to you. But every now and then something strikes a nerve and you just feel the need to jump in.
I understand that. We have this new term now that has become a thing in our society called normalizing. And you're normalizing what you might otherwise describe as abnormal behavior. To just sit in your house and write nasty things at celebrities all day and just try to gain a reaction it's a thing. This is something that people do right now.
Stadiums forever.
Right.
It's just now able to go on with millions more who can type.
Right. So maybe that's the perfect example to this. Like, Kevin Durant would not turn around and respond to some person. Yeah. Now, if that person yells,
listen, we don't know that he never has. We don't know that. I mean, sometimes someone will say something that will just strike that nerve, and you'll turn, and that person say, got him.
But if you actually see the stuff that he was responding to, it's not horrible. It's not personal.
Everybody's different.
I know. He's not insulting his family or anything like that.
I know.
Anyway, I just find it astonishing. You're Kevin Durant. Life doesn't get better. Like, things can't get better than they are for you. And all of these people who are, listen, there has been legitimate criticism of Kevin Durant. We have criticized him. I didn't love his move to Golden State, but it's his life. He's living it. And if you're allowing these people to have any influence whatsoever in your life, in my opinion, if you're Kevin Durant, you're making an unnecessary mistake.
The best of Mike and Mike.
I got a new word for you.
Oh, no.
The Cardigacket. I think the Cardigacket works.
That's a mouthful.
Once again, if you're just joining us, there's a lot of attention, a disproportionate amount of attention being paid to my sweater, which I think is a sweater. Others think it looks like a jacket. It's kind of a cardigan. I decided I was going to try and trademark Swacket. Turns out Under Armour has already done that. Right. So Gola kind of likes Jetter. I like Cardigacket.
Cardigacket's a lot.
It's a lot, but it has a very unique and distinctive meaning. Jetter is already a noun described as one who struts, one who bears himself jauntily, or something which emits a jet of water. That's what I was thinking. But when you heard jetter, I think of like a hose.
I don't spell it J-E, whatever that was. I spell
How are you spelling it?
J-E-A-T-E-R.
But that's Jeter. It sounds like it should be, it looks like it should be pronounced Jeter.
It's my word. I can pronounce it how I want.
I like Cardigacket.
Cardigacket's a mouthful. Why don't we just call you Mr. Rogers?
That's what a lot of people are tweeting. So here's the beauty of it. So just to finish up the Kevin Durant conversation we were just having, okay? I bought the sweater. I like it. I like the way it looks. My wife was with me when we bought it. She likes it. The hell do I care if people are making fun of it? That's well played.
Stand
by. That's the point. So tons of
honey,
people,
we can share.
Look, tons of people are tweeting me pictures of Mr. Rogers.
Right.
Okay, it's all in good fun, but it doesn't. What do I care? I mean, what at the end of the day, what the heck difference does it make to me if people like or don't like my sweater?
I understand that, but there can be some things that will touch a nerve on you.
I understand.
Everybody has that line, and some people it's less. Some people, like Kevin says, he likes the interaction. Now, do you go so far as to do some of the things he did? That's, you can question.
Do you think he'd say he likes the interaction when he's tweeting back? He didn't like playing with he had no one to play with besides Russ, and he didn't like playing for Billy Donovan.
Well, I think
is that something he's doing because he's enjoying the interaction?
Liked that if he thought it was coming from somebody else.
No, he's getting his buttons pushed and he's getting goaded into something that he easily knows better than to do.
But he does it. I mean, I'm not sure where you're going here. You can sit there and tell your kid don't do it anymore, and they do it. I mean, that's what they do. It's what happens. So to sit there and say, well, you shouldn't do it. I mean,
here's what I'm saying. Okay, I'm not a therapist or a psychiatrist, but I am a long-standing patient. And one of the things that you learn in this is that the only person who should control how you feel about yourself is you.
Yeah.
And if you are just sitting there on Twitter or any other form of social media reading all these comments to yourself all the time and you are moved to respond, it suggests to me that at least in some tiny way, he's allowing his own feelings about himself to be influenced by what these people are saying.
Okay.
And that's all I'm trying to say.
All right.
Is a therapist would say, don't do that.
But you know what? If he's fine with it and he's good with it, he got nailed.
But does he sound fine with it? That's my
I don't
point.
know.
If he's
I don't know
back,
him.
that suggests to me he's not.
You know what he
fine with
did?
it.
If he didn't get caught doing this, do you think we'd have heard an apology, or do you think he'd still be doing it?
No, he'd be doing it. But
okay,
I don't know.
So
I
do you
guess
think he's just doing it? Oh my God, I hate myself, and I'm doing it again.
No,
Oh my God, I hate myself. I'm
Don't
doing it
over
again.
No. I'm not suggesting he hates himself. But what I am saying
he's doing it for a reason.
Right. What's the reason?
I don't know the man. I don't know the reason.
So I'm telling you that this is what I am from a distance psychoanalyzing here, and maybe I may be miles off. But what I do know is that it sounds to me when you're writing back the stuff he's writing, it suggests to me that these people are getting to him. They're making him. It's one thing to be interacting with people, but it sounds to me like they're getting to him at least a little bit.
If someone's ripping you and you answer back, it's getting to you.
And so I'm suggesting to him, if it's going to get to you, do your best to ignore it. It's not worth his time. It's not worth his energy.
Common sense that, but obviously it's not having an effect. He's doing it. I mean, we all know that. Is it the best thing in the world to be clapping back on people who are ripping you? No, it's not. But they're all doing it for a reason.
How about the Uniswag it?
Oh God. What does Una have anything to do with it?
Well, I think it means you're suggesting that it would work for a man or a woman.
Oh,
so it could be a Uniswag it.
Okay.
That's new.
Okay. Uniswag it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking for a name here. The what does this say? The Cardicate? No, I don't.
The only problem is you're looking at other people's names now. You're not going to get the credit for it.
Well,
you need. No, I know, but then if you try and market that, they're going to say, "I tweeted it to you. It's right there in print."
Well, if it winds up working out and I get to buy my island, whoever it is that suggested to me on Twitter can come visit the island.
I know you want to get an island out of this, so you got to get your own word.
An island would be a best case scenario. All right, we can carry Bubba over through 2 segments here, right? So let's do Love It or Shove It, and we'll do it over the course of 2.
It's time for another edition of Love It,
Oh, this is fun.
or Shove It with Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio.
I Love It or Shove It with Bubba is brought to you by Granger. He's got a funny hat on, and he's in a pumpkin patch. Bubba, what's going on over there, Bubs?
What's up, guys? Yep. Here we are at the generic pumpkin patch at, what time is it, 8:30 in the morning. You may know that fall is beginning in 2 days, but I figured why not get a head start? You know, nothing better than fall in southern New England. So got my pumpkin. I'm out, enjoying it. Got my fall hat on. Just ready to go.
I love a pumpkin patch. I'm really excited for you. Absolutely right.
Do a hayride.
It's awesome.
Hop on,
Take your kids when they're young to go get the pumpkins.
Sure.
And then after you smash them, no, I'm sorry.
In all honesty, I miss it. I mean, that's one of the many things I miss the most about my kids being little. Was Halloween.
Yep.
Halloween has now changed substantially.
Completely agree on that.
In the Greenberg household. All right, Bubba's got a bunch of topics, and we will love them or shove them. We'll carry it over here through the rest of the hour. Go ahead, Bubs.
If you want, Greeny, I can come over, and we'll do Halloween together this year. If you want to take me out trick-or-treating.
We'll go trick-or-treating?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I would really like that, actually.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Now we look forward to kids coming to our house to trick or treat, which is fun and all that kind of stuff. But I
still go with the thing when I hand candy out, I give it to them and I take one. I give it to them.
One for you, one for me.
Sometimes I take it out of a kid's bag if he's small enough.
Just give me your address now. and I'll be there.
He's a man who's lost 60 pounds. And yet the other day you ate 4 donuts live on the air.
3.5.
And now you're giving up. Maybe we can give up bobbleheads for Halloween at your house. Ray will be happy.
There's
all right.
idea.
We're not getting to the loves and
we're
shoves.
not.
Go ahead, Bubs.
Sure. The year of the home run is a good thing for baseball. Love it or shove it.
I love it. I dig the long ball. I'm all about it. Give me a bomb out there. I'm cool with that. I mean, I know there's less balls in play and less hit. I get all that. So I guess it depends. Are you watching on TV? Are you in the ballpark where you'd like to see a little more action? You know, for me, I like the home run. So I don't mind it one bit.
I don't like it. I'll say this. I don't like the reason why it's happening, which is to say, if people were just hitting more. People hitting more home runs on its face is good. More home runs equals better than less home runs. I get that. But the reason that it's happening is 2 things. One, I believe that they've done something with the ball, but I don't know that for certain. 2, it is because everyone is swinging for the fences now. If you watch these guys, I mean, left-handed batters look like Phil Mickelson. They're swinging straight up. The trajectory of their swing is up because they've determined, and Mark Teixeira was talking about it earlier this morning, that you don't want to hit the ball on the ground anymore. It used to be you hit them where they ain't, right? That was the way we grew up hearing about baseball. Well, now everyone is just trying to hit balls in the seats. It means fewer balls in play. I do believe that it is in the big picture, it is a product of a bad thing for the game. So while home runs in and of itself are a good thing, I'm going to say I shove this because I think that the cause of more home runs is a bad thing. Does that make sense?
It was a long-winded answer to getting there, but I did understand it.
You weren't listening to a word I said.
I had no idea what you said.
Loving it or shoving it with Bubba. Bubba, what are you drinking over there?
What's that? Oh, yeah, I'm just drinking some apple cider out of my fall.
You got anything in it?
He's got a mug that says fall on it.
Attaboy.
Here's what's hilarious. He's got a mug that someone just took a Sharpie and wrote fall on.
No, this is my fall mug. Use it every year.
Our prop budget is really disintegrating here.
It's all going downhill, isn't it?
Oh, my goodness. We're just hanging on.
Crashing to the
You guys
end.
want some?
What else you got, Bubs?
The teams from California, Rams, Chargers, 49ers, are better than the teams from New York, Giants, Jets, Bills. Love it or shove it.
The Giants, Jets, Bills have one more.
So let's
win.
rank them in order. This is pretty good. If you're going to rank those 6 teams in order right now, and I'm being told we forgot the Raiders. So this was not well researched. The Raiders play in California, and they're much better than any other team on this list.
So let's keep.
They just beat the Jets 100-0.
Let's keep the Raiders out of this conversation. Let's do Rams, Chargers, 49ers, sans the Raiders, because that would skew it. It would be over if the Raiders were involved in this, right?
So, I mean, of these 6 teams,
who would I take first? I take the Chargers.
Or the Rams.
I take the Chargers.
I mean, the Chargers are 0-2. The 49ers are 0-2. The Jets are 0-2.
I look at the way the Chargers are
0-2.
They got a blocked field goal against Denver.
I hear you.
And to tie, and then
the Rams
just
dominated Indianapolis and then lost a close game to Washington.
I would say Rams, Chargers, 49ers. I would say the California
1-1 and could have beaten Carolina.
Yeah. I would go California teams.
I would definitely go California teams.
Yep.
All right, let's take a pause here on that thought. It's love it or shove it. It's brought to you by Grainger. No matter the job, Grainger's got your back. Grainger for the ones who get it done. We'll come back with more with Bubba in just a moment.
Keep drinking, Bubba.
Keep drinking that fall cider. All right, an enormous amount of reaction once again to my Cardigacket. Carl Greenfield likes that. Cardigacket is perfect. I'm only listening on radio, and I can picture it perfectly. I like that a lot.
How about
some people are saying I should. Go ahead.
How about let's personalize it? You want an island? The green again.
Yes, I saw that one. I like that. And so John Jakowski tweeted that at me.
Yep.
So if I wind up getting an island out of the green again, I'll invite John to my island.
If I'm John, I would say it was my idea first and take the majority of the money.
How about, and then a couple of more that are coming in here. The Swazer, so it's a combination of a sweater and a blazer. The Cardicoat, the Cardiswacker, the Cardacket. The Cardacket.
It sounds too much like Kardashian.
The Kardashian.
How about this? I've given away a bobblehead. I mean, we're going to give away another BB, and listen, in about 12 minutes, we're going to ask another Mike and Mike trivia question for another bobblehead. Ray hates when I give away 3.
Right.
So I'll give away 2 bobbleheads, and then how about later in the show we give away your green again?
We're not giving away that. We're not
let's
giving
give
away
it
my Cardigacket.
Let's give it away.
It's giving me so much attention. Look how much everyone is interested
I know.
in
Let's let somebody else enjoy it.
No one is having my Cardigacket but me. All this Twitter reaction, however, does come through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, and nothing makes up for your fantasy football obsession like surprising your family with a bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order 36 autumn roses for just $36, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Can I read you one final thought thought on the Cardigacket.
Go ahead.
And then we'll go back to Bubba.
Bubba, who's by a corn maze right now.
It comes from my buddy Tim Dugan, whom you have met.
I know Tim very well.
And he texts me, I'm listening on the car on my way to work. Are you wearing the sweater that we bought in London? Funny, I love the sweater. As you know, I bought one myself. So we bought.
Tim, you have one of these too?
You got a Cardigacket. I went to this store.
Yeah.
I bought it. I wore it to dinner that night. We were in London together for my birthday.
Yes.
Just a month ago or whatever that was. A month and a half ago. And I got such compliments on my Cardigacket, which I wasn't calling it then, but this is my new name. That he liked it so much he went and bought one too.
He went and bought one. Did he get a ladies' medium as well?
I don't even know what size it is. I'll have you look at the label a little bit
I know
later.
the arms aren't long enough.
All right, you guys can say whatever you want. I'm not going to create a fake Twitter handle and start defending my Cardigacket.
There you go.
I am, however, going to try and get a patent out of this.
I don't blame you one bit.
And I'm going to live on Cardigacket Island. All right, Bubba, we got time for a few more of these loves or shoves. What do you got?
Oh, yeah, sure. Great. Just eating some candy corn here.
I love he's in one of those
mini pumpkins
that have the maze in it. It has the maze rules, and one of them is no alcohol. How are you there?
Yeah, well, I just ignored that. It's been a problem. They've spoken to me a few times.
I bet they have.
I said, go to hell, I'm famous. DeMaurice Smith unanimously reelected as head of NFLPA. Love it or shove it.
Oh, listen, I love it. I think what you want is consistency. I think, Roger Goodell, he's going to get his extension, and I think it has more to do than just saying, hey, he's going to be the guy for the next negotiation, because the NFL has been winning and they're making a ton of money. And for DeMaurice Smith, some people have been criticizing that he takes everything to court. He was a litigator, that as a lawyer, that was kind of his gig. But I also understand the position they're in now. A lot of times he has to wait for the decision to come through by the league, and then his only recourse is to go to court. So I hope that the contract is worked through the end of 2021, so he is the guy and because the reason I hope that, Greeny, is that they can start sooner rather than later to start to build something. I hope it can happen. I don't know if people are hopeful that those two can work together better than they have, but that's my hope. So I'm happy that both guys are still going to be there to hopefully get this thing going sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an opinion on it one way or the other, but I do believe that most of the criticism of DeMaurice Smith has been completely ill-founded. This notion that the collective bargaining agreement was a loss for the players and that that's somehow his fault is ridiculous.
Players got a lot of wins, got things they wanted.
He's in a fight he can't win.
Yeah.
I've made this analogy before. Golic, if you and I fight, if you and I had an actual fight, how long would it last?
Not long.
But no, actually.
Seconds.
It would last as long as you decided for it to last. What are the players going to get in a negotiation with the owners? Whatever the owners decide they're willing to give.
And especially this power struggle thing, this is, people of the public is getting too blinded by this, that this is the big fight. It's not going to be. I keep trying to say this over and over again. It's not going to be when the league or the union talks about be ready to sit out, gang. It's not going to be over this. Don't get blinded by that. There are other things that they are working to get.
All right, Bubba, love it or shove it. Next.
James Franklin icing the Georgia State kicker while up 56-0. Love it or shove it.
Now, he says he didn't do it.
Correct. He said his backup kick defense team was having trouble getting lined up.
I would just say this. So let's just go with the question. If he did ice the guy at 56-0, do you have a problem with that?
I do.
Obviously, I would have a problem with that as well. I mean, what you're trying to do is preserve your shutout. Okay, you love having a shutout, but in this situation, no. If he truly was icing the kicker, I would have a major problem.
For those of you who don't know what the story we're talking about is, Penn State coach James Franklin, they're winning 56-0 against Georgia State. There's 11 seconds left.
Right.
Georgia State trying not to get shut out, lines up to kick a field goal. They make the field goal, but Franklin had called the timeout. And again, he later said that's not the reason that he did it. He did it because his team was having trouble getting lined up.
Yeah, not many people buy that. They think that he wanted the shutout, and if that was the reason, I'm not in the man's head, I don't know, but if it was the reason to preserve the shutout and ice the kicker, then I would definitely disagree with that.
I would as well. I don't like it at all. All right, quickly, one more, Bubba, go.
The Browns should be concerned with Kaiser's migraines, keeping him off the field. Love it or shove it.
He says that he's had these since high school. In fact, the last one he had was in high school, and he said it blurs his vision, and that's one of the reasons he came out, and that he just has to deal with it. He has meds to deal with it. I don't want to sit here and say it should be a concern, but you also don't want your quarterback. It depends on how often this happens. He's only in his second start, and it happened once. So let's see going forward.
Yeah, let's be clear. He said that it's the first time it's happened to him in a game.
In a game.
Since high school. He has migraines from time to time, but that it hadn't happened to him in a game. And he actually said, this is my biggest fear, is that I start having them or that I would have one during a game because, as you say, it throws off his vision and a lot of other things. So should they be concerned? At least a little. I mean,
at least a little. Obviously, we need to give it more time to see.
Bubba, that's well done.
Bubba.
Happy fall.
Happy fall to you guys. Greeny, I'll see you on Halloween.
Enjoy the autumn. All right, I look forward to that.
Hammered right now.
I'll take him trick-or-treating, and I'll let him wear the cardigacket.
The best of Mike and Mike.
We got a lot of things here. The Cartijay, we got the Carket, we got a whole lot of different names. For Greeny's sweater, how about the Greta?
That's a jetter, my word.
A vest or a sweater vest, the cardigacket, whatever it is. My outfit today is getting a lot of attention. We're Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests appear on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Our next trivia question will be at the bottom of this hour. So just about a half hour from now, we'll ask a question about Mike and Mike history.
Good one.
And I want to tell you, first of all, good morning, Will Kane.
Hi, Will.
Good morning, guys.
And welcome. We have a bunch of things to get into with Kane, who's in our studio here. But, Mike, so Pete Genesini sent me this picture. So we did a story this morning. We did a trivia question about our first studio.
Yes.
And people remember what they think of as our first studio because when we first went on ESPN News, we were in a radio studio.
Yes, we were.
And in retrospect, it looks small compared to where we've been since.
Yes, it does.
But these people never saw our first studio.
No.
And no one would have because we weren't on television. But we were in a closet. I mean, it was literally a closet. So I asked Pete if he had any pictures, and he does. So I posted this on Instagram. This is right now at ESPN Greeny on Instagram. I have a picture of us in our first with the Stanley Cup.
The Stanley Cup, I remember.
In our first studio, and if you look at it, you can see we're leaning in. That's where we sit. Those were our seats. That's where we sat together to do the show.
Oh, listen, I remember you could reach out and touch the walls of that one. It was minute.
That's sort of fun sharing that. Where were you then?
Really
2000, January of 2000. Will Kane, where were you?
That's the Millennium, man. Doesn't everybody know where they were in the Millennium? I was in Austin, Texas. I went to a New Year's Eve at Stubbs Barbecue. That's exactly where I was. January 1st, 2000.
That's more specific than I meant. I just meant in general in life. Where were you then? When we were doing this. Where were you?
I was living on a ranch in Montana and back in Texas for the Christmas, New Year's vacation.
What was your job? What did you do then?
I was a ranching.
You were a rancher?
Yes, ranching.
What would be some of your ranching responsibilities?
Well, we took hunters back into the mountains. We were mainly, that's what we did. We were a hunting outfitter. We took hunters back into the mountains to hunt for elk.
What kind of outfits did you have?
Not cardigans.
Did you track?
Or swackets.
Were you a tracker?
No, I was like the gopher of the ranch hand business. I was like, put that on that mule, pack that saddle, pack that, mule pack, put everything in, because these guys would go 13 miles back into the mountains and stay for at least a week at a time to try to hunt an elk. And I was just the guy that I was manual labor. That's it. I did not track. I was not a guide. Nothing like that.
So funny, because that was what I considered doing also right out of college. I thought I would do that. I'd help people hunt for, I was about to say shop for elk. That's what I would have done. I would have been a personal shopper long before I would have been an elk tracker or whatever it is you're talking about. Okay, we got a lot of topics on the table today. Again, trivia coming up shortly. Will Kane, the Kevin Durant thing. We've had a bunch of conversation about it here this morning. What are your thoughts?
I really, really like what Kevin Durant has done in the last couple days. Not commenting on Twitter to every single individual that has said something negative towards him, but rather the way he owned it in the last 24 hours. Vulnerability apparently is the key to likability. We should all remember that when we want to be right. I could be speaking into the mirror as I talk right now. Mm-hmm. But every time you want to be right and impervious and bulletproof on something, you ought to remember that your vulnerabilities are actually the window into who you are. We all bond over our negative things. Hey, we bond over our failures, our weaknesses. I have no calves. No calves. Zero calves. Skinny legs. And that makes someone else go, hey, me too.
I've got skinny legs too.
And now we've bonded. No one bonds over.
Pretty good calves.
See,
oh my God.
No one cares, Golick. No one's heard you say I have good calves and goes, I like that guy.
All right.
You could sell Golik's legs and a cart at Disney World, like as the turkey legs they sell. But anyway, go ahead.
So here's my point.
Where you're going.
Here's my point. Here's what Kevin Durant has done. I believe this was within the last 36 hours. In true form, he was on a YouTube video on his channel in the comment section where somebody says to him, why is somebody of your stature care? Why do you care what people say?
Yeah.
And this is a comment to one guy.
Let me hear it.
Of my stature, I play basketball. I got acne. I grew up with nothing. I'm still trying to figure myself out in my late 20s. I slide into DMs. I make fun of my friends. I drink beers and play Xbox. I'm closer to you than you think.
Okay, fascinating, very interesting. I get all of that. So these are all of his imperfections, and I'm not sure if what he's trying to say is I'm just like you, or if he is actually trying to give you more of a window into his insecurities, which are clearly on display in this thing. And I went completely the opposite direction from the direction you're going on this, Will, which is I have no criticism of Kevin Durant doing what he did. I don't think it's a big deal. I think it will be forgotten about in 10. We'll move on to the next little manufactured irrelevant social media story. But I do think it is a window into the following, and I will use the same phrase I used a moment ago. I'm not a therapist or a psychiatrist, but I am a longtime patient. And if there's one of the things that I've learned that is the most valuable is that there are only two people who can determine for you what you think about yourself, what your feelings are about yourself, you and everyone else. And if you're allowing anyone else, literally any other person in the world, to significantly impact in any meaningful way what you think of yourself, then you're allowing people a power. You are giving them a power that they should not have over you. And that, I think, is what's going on here. So it's all well and good to say I'm more like you than you think I am, even though I make all this money and I'm so incredibly talented and famous. I get all of that, and all of that is true. What I'm saying is, if you're letting these comments from a person who, if they met you in the street, would walk up and beg to take a selfie with you and show every friend they've ever had their picture in the street with Kevin Durant, if you're allowing that guy's negativity to in any way impact you, then in my opinion, you're making a mistake.
I guess where I would go with that, isn't that true of everybody? You keep bringing up Kevin Durant and the position he's in. You've been told that, right? Are you as high? Are you as big a celebrity as Kevin Durant?
No, not even close.
But you follow that credo, right?
Yes, I do.
So shouldn't everybody? Isn't that?
Yes.
Well, you keep bringing up Kevin Durant like you're this Kevin. Why are you doing it? This is for the every person.
No, because
this is for everybody, and everybody does it every day on Twitter. Millions of people,
right,
get called out, or you get in a conversation, they don't like what somebody says, and they answer back. They don't like what somebody says about them, and they answer back. So it doesn't matter if you're regular Joe, regular Jane, or Kevin Durant.
But those people aren't being attacked personally, and he is.
They certainly
just
can
going
be.
Back directly,
you read Twitter?
But you don't know who they are. If
Kevin doesn't know who they are, these people don't know who they are. They're on Twitter with millions of people, and they're saying something, and they're getting attacked for. You've seen debates back and forth about the president?
Of course, the threads that go on. I understand that.
It stops being about the president and starts being about that person. They get attacked, and they fire back.
Right. Go ahead, Will.
Well, to be clear, you're right, Greeny. I mean, what Kevin Durant is doing, I believe, on Twitter and YouTube comments, on an Instagram post, fake shadow accounts, is lame. It's weird. It's crazy to be doing that. But you learned that lesson, Greeny, to be clear, because you're the one that brought this up. You learned that in therapy, meaning it's something that you're working on, that we all working on. Maybe on that particular lesson, you've mastered it. I'm not justifying what Kevin Durant is doing. In fact, I'm going to say it again. I think it's lame and weird. But what I am appreciating is his honesty about that lame and weird act that he's doing. That's showing vulnerability. And by the way, I'm not a psychiatrist, or I'm not a psychologist either. But that seems to be sort of the first step of being, you know what, I got this thing, and I do this. I really shouldn't. It's not good for my mental health.
I guess that's my point, because I agree with you. What he's doing and answering back to people, I agree, shouldn't be done. But my point is, it's way easier said than done. It's so easy to say what we should do. Well, you shouldn't answer that. Well, no kidding. I mean, I think we all know that, yet everybody does it. And we all try and learn the lesson and not do it. As I said, I've had buttons pushed enough on Twitter where I've gone back. I've gone after a fan on a football field. It goes to a level. Everybody has a level. Should I have? No, absolutely not. But I did, and everybody has that line.
And juxtapose that to me against the way Kyrie Irving acted on First Take the other day in his interview with Max and Stephen A., where his general attitude was condescension, the questions and introspection, at least from anybody else's point of view, like I don't have to explain my decision making to you, just respect it as a man. That doesn't A, ring as honest, and B, not that this is as important as being honest, but make you likable because you're not being vulnerable and honest about the true things that are driving you in life. Kevin Durant's wrong, but he's also being vulnerable about it, and in the end, it makes him somebody we can identify with and a little more likable.
Look, I think that Kevin Durant has been one of the most likable celebrities that we've had in the sports world for a long time. His departure from Oklahoma City to Golden State created a lot of negativity, but this is the same guy who called his mom the real MVP, and this is the same guy who wore a backpack to post-game press conferences, and everyone thought it was so great. He seems like a great guy, is the point I'm making.
You know what he is? He's a bad villain. And he's trying to be a villain from time to time. And he's not. He's just.
It's not naturally in him.
Yeah. LeBron wasn't a good villain in Miami. He never been a villain at all and didn't want to be a villain. There are guys that just can't be good villains.
Right. Yeah. And what I'm talking about, and maybe I'm not making my point well, and I want to move on to a couple of other things. I'm not trying to make the incredibly simplistic point. People shouldn't respond until I understand that point. My point is, if you're going to the level where you are creating a false account to write back things that are defending you in ways that's
another level.
That strikes
me as absurd, man.
Who is having his own sense of self called into question by the things that are being said about him. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Greedy, you stink, or whatever, or Will Kane, I hate you, or Golick.
Never happened.
Yeah, that doesn't. Right, everyone loves Kane, but you know what I mean. That stuff is what it is. That's not going to get you to your soul. You're not going to get to a person. Mike Golick, you're a 53-year-old man with enormous accomplishments and all that kind of stuff. Someone says, Golick, you're a dope. It's not going to impact the way you view yourself.
Right.
If you're going to the level of creating a false account to write back, well, he had no one to play with besides Russ and he hated playing for Billy Donovan, that suggests to me that this stuff is actually getting to him in a way that is meaningful. Yeah. And what I'm trying to, beyond just the usual devolution or de-evolution, whatever the word I'm looking for is, of the discourse that takes place if you mention the president on Twitter or anything like that. It goes to a different level, and I may not be making my point very well.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right, and Kevin Durant knows it, apparently.
All right, Mike and Mike. Will Kane is here. He loves my sweater, the Swacket. We are
do you really?
By do you? What do you think of it?
Do you like
Would you wear this?
You know, the idea I do not like.
Okay.
The idea of a cardigan in general, I do not like.
Why
the
is
only
that?
cardigan that I've ever looked at and go, yeah, I like that cardigan is The Dudes in The Big Lebowski, which was on HBO again last night and completely and utterly holds up. It's among the great things in life, like Ice Water, The Big Lebowski. And he wears an amazing cardigan in that. Yours? It's
a cardigan.
You don't like it?
I wouldn't wear it. It looks good on Greeny.
He doesn't want to insult me.
No, he doesn't. He's being very nice.
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guest on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Next, Bob, I keep calling him Bob McAdoo.
Oh, Ben
McAdoo, the coach of the Giants, and of course Bob McAdoo is a Hall of Famer from the NBA. Ben McAdoo calling out Eli Manning in a somewhat personal and direct way after his team's performance on Monday night, which has been consistently awful. Your thoughts on that?
He's right. McAdoo was 100% right. That was sloppy quarterback play and that fourth down in the red zone up against the goal line. Eli didn't manage the clock. Ben McAdoo pointing out the obvious, I don't think is something to criticize him for. He apparently has a relationship with Eli, or we're going to find out very soon that he doesn't. He apparently has a relationship with Eli that can survive this kind of direct criticism.
How about if someone were to ask Eli after the game, you seem to be getting a lot of pressure back there. Why do you think that you're getting so much pressure? And he said, well, you know what? It's a bad coaching decision. They should be helping out my left tackle, but they can't, so I can't get anything done back there. So Ben is very stubborn, instead of sloppy, very stubborn in the way he likes to design an offense, and he refuses to acknowledge the obvious, which is that I'm getting destroyed from the blind side practically every time I go back there, and even when I'm not, I'm feeling a rush that isn't coming, and it's impacting us in a negative way. If he said that, the world would stop spinning on its axis.
But do you think that they have an equal relationship?
Yeah, well, I mean, candidly, Eli Manning has accomplished infinitely more in football than Ben McAdoo ever has.
But they don't have an equal relationship. Coach and player do not exist on the same hierarchical leadership complain. That's the simple truth of it. If
Eli
you criticize
Manning's contract is like $100 million, and Ben McAdoo's is probably 10% of that. I don't know exactly what his contract is.
You're telling me who's more important to the franchise.
Eli.
But yes, and no one's going to disagree with that. But you criticize up, it's different than criticizing down. Ben McAdoo is Eli Manning's boss. I don't care how much more important Eli is to the organization. And if you think that's if it were in reverse, you would have a serious leadership and thus winning problem. Look at guys like Nick Saban. Look at guys like Bill Belichick. It's very clear the way the ball rolls down the hill, the way the hierarchy works. And I believe that's how successful organizations have to work. And if you're criticizing down, that's acceptable. Criticizing up, not acceptable.
You know what you don't hear Bill Belichick say? That. He says the players played bad. We coached bad. We all didn't do well enough together. I completely disagree with you. Ben McAdoo can feel that all he wants. You don't say it. You say, you know what, we all need to work better at this. We all need to, from a coaching standpoint to a player standpoint, to get this thing done. I never see any value, even though you say you may be right, and I understand, I don't see any value at all in calling out the player. Because you know what? Eli knows. And in film, they go over it. But to me, there is no need publicly to do that. It's a team game. You win together, you lose together. Everybody hated Andy Reid for the way he did his press conferences. I loved him. I'm just that way. Give me it boring as hell. Give me, it's a team game. We didn't coach well enough. They didn't play well enough. We got to get better. That's what we need to do. That's what I want to hear publicly.
So
that's
we can
the
agree.
Only thing I want to hear.
We can
publicly.
agree on this to disagree. But Will, you bring up in its own way a more interesting point, which is, and would you argue that that Ty Lue is LeBron James' boss? And would you argue that Eric Spoelstra was LeBron or D. Wade's or anybody else's boss in Miami? Would you argue that Belichick and Brady maybe is a bad example, but that when you have a player of that magnitude, and Eli is not LeBron and he's not but he's a future Hall of Fame quarterback who has led that team to 2 championships and is the franchise and has been the franchise for a long time. I think the debate over who is whose boss would come down to this. Can I fire you or can you get me fired? You know what I mean? Like if in theory you work for me, if in the hierarchy of our job, I'm your boss. But if you were to go above me and say, I don't want that guy to be my boss anymore, and they'd listen to you, then in all ways that really matter, you cease to be my boss. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I understand what you're saying. I don't think the model for long-term success is predicated upon the what do you call it? The talent running the management. I don't think that's
inmates running the asylum.
Yeah, inmates running the asylum. Some reason I was in chickens and coops. I don't know.
But they have to be
somewhere there.
Hand in hand. Jeff Van Gundy said it to us years ago. I've quoted it a million times. The most important relationship in any sports organization is between the coach and the best player.
Yes.
If they are as one, then you have a chance to succeed. If they are not, then you have almost no chance.
I agree with Will on this one. You have to show respect up. You have to show respect for that position.
Yeah.
So I agree with. I don't want to see it. I still don't agree with what McAdoo did, but I don't agree with you. I agree with you on who really runs the show, and hey, if it's me or him, who it's going to be. I agree with that.
And LeBron did. We all agree on that.
But I think as a player, you have to show the respect that that's the head coach, at least publicly. You know, what may go on behind closed doors, I don't know. But publicly, I think that's the perception that you want out there.
No, I understand that. And Eli didn't do anything of the kind.
No. But you were asking the question. I think we all know what guys have the power and what guys don't have the power. But we're talking about where do you show that?
Yeah.
To me, you don't do it publicly.
All right, one more for Will Kane here before you leave here. I'm going to make you try on this jacket, and I'm going to take a picture of you of the Carter jacket. Jerry Jones, and anyone who knows you love the Cowboys. He has been in the center of a lot of conversation of late. We now know that DeMaurice Smith will be representing the Players Association for at least 3 more years. We believe Roger Goodell will continue as the commissioner of the NFL on into the future. But Jerry Jones has injected himself into the process, particularly the compensation process, and it creates an interesting dynamic with the specter of the Ezekiel Elliott thing floating over it all. What's your take?
Well, what I think Jerry Jones, to the extent that he has injected himself into the compensation process for Roger Goodell, is essentially pointing out that the emperor has no clothes. You know the famous saying, the emperor that walks around and nobody's willing to challenge him, and point out that he talks about the amazing fashion that he's wearing, but it's invisible clothes that he's wearing. He's been sold fraudulent clothes. They're invisible, and nobody's willing to tell him that, except for one peasant along the streets who goes, the emperor, he has no clothes.
Right.
Jerry Jones is showing that moment because I have sat on this program. You've sat on this program, Greeny. I know you have as well, Golick, where we've said, you know what? In the end, no matter what the CBA says, Roger Goodell has all the power. In the end, we can lament due process. We can talk about the fact that the league doesn't have any kind of coherent, logical system of justice. But in the end, Roger Goodell has all the power. But you know what? The emperor has no clothes. Roger Goodell doesn't have all the power.
The commissioner has the power which has been given to him by the owners.
I think Jerry Jones probably watched a few too many hours of Mike and Mike one day and goes, you know what? I don't think he does have all the power. And he's taught us what real due process is when there is no legal system of due process. You know what power is? I'm going to step in here and go, what you making, Roger? And then we're going to all remember who's really in charge here.
That's an interesting thought because it is true. And I mean, when you stop and think about it, that is absolutely true. They hired him. They're the ones that make the decision. So you really say Roger Goodell has the power. The commissioner has the power because of that position he's in, but it's the owners who put him in that position.
We've acted like there's no check and balance on Roger Goodell. We've acted like this whole due process thing, this whole CBA thing, Roger Goodell, no check on him.
Yep.
Turns out there was.
Listen, you're so right, and I would take it a step farther. That's why he's worth every penny they pay him, because he deflects all of the criticism for all the things. Most of the things people don't like about the National Football League are not Roger's idea. He's got to sell them. He's got to stand up there in front of everyone and take all the arrows, and so these billionaires don't have to take them. They can hang out with their players. You never hear the players say, I hate the guy who owns my team. They hate Roger. Well, who do you think Roger answers to?
Worth every penny?
Worth every penny.
$44 million? Something like that?
Sure.
I wonder if you can get that done for $15 million.
You probably
they're going to test that, but hey, I'll take the 44.
But my point is, if I'm Woody Johnson or I'm Robert Kraft or I'm Jerry Jones and I own an asset that's worth $4.5 billion, what do I care if this guy gets another $44 million divided up amongst 32 teams? If he keeps all the heat off of me, if I don't have to deal with all of that criticism and he takes all of it instead, that strikes me as a pretty good investment. No?
As my friend Ryan Russillo said, this guy, he's always telling me I'm wrong. I'm spending a lot of money on this. I wonder if I can get that done for $15 million instead of 44. At some point, you go,
you probably can.
Yeah, you probably would, but I'm not going to sit here and say he was overvalued at $44 million. He does a big service for those owners. As I said, insert him instead of Leonidas at the end of 300 when all those arrows are raining down. That's Roger Goodell's taking a lot of arrows and he gets paid very well. And if he has to settle for 20 or 25 mil, he'll still be okay.
It'll be interesting to find out if he'll do that.
You're right.
Take a pay cut
be
like
his
that?
choice.
How would you assess, very quickly, Will, because we have to run along, how would you assess the chances that, I don't know, by the time the next CBA comes up, that someone other than Goodell is the commissioner?
Low but existent. I don't know, 20, 25% possibility.
That feels high to me.
That does?
Yeah.
I think I famously mixed this up on First Take one time about what the canary in the coal mine means. The canary died because of gases underneath the mines, and he's the first one to go, and it was an air quality system like, oh, no, the canary's dead. We might get out of here. There's some tremors. There's some things going on here between Roger Goodell, Robert Kraft, Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft, that you might go, I don't know if everything's on the copacetic for Roger Goodell.
Two things. I think it's almost nil that he won't be there. I think it'll be him and
nil
doing this. Almost nil. And you brought up two, fables today. Two stories, whatever.
I got more. We were going to do Charles Tillman, and I was going to talk about Charlie Munger.
Canary in the mine. Holy smokes.
We got to run along, though, but Will Cain, again, you hear him coast to coast today, hosting with Ryan Russillo, 1 o'clock Eastern here on ESPN Radio. You see him on First Take all the time and so much more. Good to see you, Will.
Thanks,
well
fellas.
done.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Anyway, so we're going to do a trivia question here. So we're giving away these bobbleheads, and people seem to really be excited about winning them. And Mike's wife, Chris, had the very good idea of doing Mike and Mike trivia questions. And so we asked one earlier this morning. It was fun. And we have another one here. So the Twitter fingers are ready. Andrea is ready to scroll through the mentions. So tweet at Mike and Mike with the answer to the following question. And if you are the first one with the correct answer, Golick's going to send you a bobblehead.
We only did this once on the 18 years of this show, but it was memorable. In 2006, we actually married a couple during the show.
Yes.
Legally. They were married during the show.
It was awesome.
It was fantastic. Jason and Catherine, two lovely, lovely people who we still keep in touch with today. And this was in 2006. The trivia question is this. Both of them, because it was the same team. what team did they root for?
And I'm being told in my ear right now by Brooksy that we have video of the marriage.
Don't show it yet, right?
Exactly. We're not showing it because it gives away the answer to the question.
We'll wait a little bit. We'll talk about it, and then once somebody gets the answer, we'll show the video because it's prominent in the video. But that was a ball.
Oh, my goodness.
That was fantastic.
That was one of the best promotions that we ever did.
Yeah.
They got married on our show on March 14th, 2006. It was in a studio here at ESPN. For reasons known only to him, Bill Walton was so moved by this, he decided to come. So Bill Walton was there.
Yes.
George Bodenheimer, the president of ESPN,
we have a
was
winner,
there.
I'm being told. We have a winner.
told we have a winner.
So you go ahead and show the B-roll now if we want.
And that will give it away, as for those of you watching it on ESPN2. That's Catherine being walked down the aisle with the aisle that we created by her dad.
And if you see already, for those watching on TV, the mascot, it's a Florida Gator. They're Florida fans.
Oh, the crazy Florida Gators
crazy colors, Florida colors that you see everywhere, including Florida Gators.
And that's Jason's son. So he had a son, and I remember her words were really beautiful about how she was delighted to have the son in their life. And it really was a beautiful event that we had the opportunity to do. And some people, like anything else in life, a ton of people made fun of us for it. I'll never forget how many people made fun of us for it as though we were doing something silly. And I guess it was silly.
It was, but
it was great.
How about back then we were getting like everything donated, and we were doing reads for like grocery stores who were donating us the cake.
Things were a little different
flowers. Then. It was hilarious, but they are such a cool couple. That was so. But I think one of the most crazy things of that was when they were panning the guests before the wedding. Yeah, you're right. There's Bill Walton.
He just was sitting there.
He just 7 foot of him just standing there. It was just fantastic.
He didn't have any particular connection to us or to our show. He used to appear on our show regularly, but it wasn't as though there was anything about this that involved him. He just decided he wanted to be there for the wedding, and it was a really nice event. And
it was cool.
It's a good trivia.
Congrats!
Question.
I don't know. We'll find out if they have any certain affinity to any team, if there's a certain bobblehead. But so we've had 2 today. The first winner was they knew the answer to the trivia question when Bob Bacozzi.
It's all decks on hand, as you know, in a Game 7.
Sure. Was on our show, which he was so much. What was the name of his segment? It was Bob Bacozzi, Did You Know Z? And then this one, the one marriage we had on the show, like we have multiple ones. In 2006, what team did they root for? And both Jason and Catherine were just crazy Florida Gator fans. So good job. We'll do other ways to give out the bobbleheads. We'll also do more trivia. We have a lot of great trivia over the 18 years of this show. But that's a lot of fun. And we appreciate everybody tweeting in. And we'll try and find different ways to give the bobbleheads out.
A lot of people are reacting. So when we mentioned Bob, we were talking about the studio that we were in.
Yeah.
We were in a tiny, tiny studio. We were never on TV in this studio.
No, we were not.
No one ever saw it in the audience. We were there from our inception, I want to say, until like somewhere in 2001, probably a year and a half.
I certainly don't remember.
It was about that.
Yeah.
And so Pete Genesini, who was our first producer, texted me a picture of us in there, and I posted it on Instagram. It's up at ESPN Greeny on Instagram if you want to see it. And the one thing people are reacting to the most is your face.
Look how fat it is?
My God.
Yeah.
I mean this in a positive way. You have lost so much weight.
A lot of it was in my face.
How old were you in that picture? How old were you in 2000?
What year was it? 2000?
What year was it?
What year was it?
You don't remember what year we started?
Oh, that's when we.
That's in the old studio. That's our first studio.
I didn't know that.
That's our first studio. That's the old studio.
I know, but I didn't know that was in 2000. I didn't know. So you're asking me. Boy, my face looks a lot thinner.
Look how different.
Well, I was born in
looks.
1962.
So you were 38 when we started the show. You were 38. I was 33.
54 years old.
And you look. In all honesty, I'm going to say this and I mean it. Yeah. You look better now. You do.
A few more wrinkles.
But you look better. You were just a fat guy then, and you're not now. It's that simple. Yeah. The first thing I ever said to you on the air was. Yeah. So they bring the two of us. Then Golic is here. Golic is doing the show with Tony Bruno.
Yeah, I done the show with Tony Bruno, and Tony had moved on, so we were looking for another host.
And they bring in a bunch of different people to audition, of which I'm not one.
You're not one. You're a filler for a couple days.
And they asked me to come in and do a few days because I had done radio in Chicago before I came here to be an anchor on ESPN News. And they asked me to come work with you. And I come in the very first day, and I get a good look at you. And that's the face I'm looking at.
That's what you looked at.
And I believe it was about the first words I ever said on the air to you were, Mike, I don't want to suggest that you're kind of a fat guy, but if we stood next to each other, we would be the number 10. And those are the first words I ever spoke aloud to Mike Golic.
And we met 5 minutes before the show.
And you know what I remember about that day? I came in, we're sitting there, like maybe it's 20 minutes before we go on, and you said to me, "Do you want some coffee?" We used to make coffee in that pot. Remember,
yes.
You would make like
and it would anger me when people left it empty and wouldn't refill it.
So Golic would go make coffee, and I came in, and you said, "Do you want some coffee?" You were trying so nicely. I mean this really nicely to be hospitable. I actually almost wrote this in the dedication I made to you in my first book.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, "Can I make you want some coffee?" And I said, "Actually, I prefer tea," which I did at that time. And you said, you'll never remember this, but you said, "I can make you a pot of tea." You said that to me, and I thought to myself, "He's a nice guy. You just were a nice guy." And then we went on the air, and I made fun of you immediately.
I remember. I do vaguely remember that, and me walking away saying, "Loser."
Yeah, I mean, I knew you would. I mean, you sort of had a look on your face, like, I can't believe this guy doesn't drink coffee. He drinks tea.
Listen, since we're telling the story, there was 13 different people that were actually up for the job of being my next co-host. That they were flying in and some of it. And my wife, as she does now, listened to every minute of the show, and she still does it, to her everlasting credit. And she would call me after the first segment of each of those auditions. And there would be some where she'd be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you have 3 hours and 45 minutes left of this garbage." Mm-hmm. And others would be, "Oh, it doesn't sound too bad. We'll see where it goes." And so we would talk after the first break every single time. Greeny comes on. Honestly, we didn't really know who you were. I don't mean that in a mean way at all.
I was anything but a household name.
Yeah, and we literally met 10 minutes, 5 minutes before the show. We did that first segment where he mocked me like that, and I laughed, the big fat-bellied Santa Claus laugh. And the first break hit, and I talked to my wife, 6:15 Eastern time that morning, and her quote, word for word, "He sounds kind of geeky, but he's the one."
15 minutes.
15 minutes, and she called that one. The thing that amazes me most about that picture is your hair color is exactly the same.
No,
tell me
it is not.
You don't color your hair.
I have, as God is my witness.
Yeah.
I have not once colored my hair in all these 18 years. Not once. That hair and this hair have not been touched.
Yeah. Well, you may not have done your hairstylist.
No one has done it. And you know what's interesting is that my kids lately have started saying to me, "Dad, you're getting some gray hair."
Yeah.
So I
can't
am
really
getting
tell.
a little bit of gray hair.
Very tough to tell. The other thing in that picture, when you look at the whole picture, is look at the computer in that thing.
Well, that's the point.
Holy
look where
smokes.
we were sitting. We were in this tiny little studio.
But the computer, you don't see computers like that anymore.
No, because they don't exist anymore. We also had a reel-to-reel in there that we would use to cut tape. And you know what I'm remembering? I hate to even say this out loud because it's such a horrible memory amidst all these nice ones, but we were still in that room on 9/11.
Yes,
so
we
were still there at least through September of 2001. Yes. We started January of 2000. I was just trying to think in my head, when did we move to a different studio? That's where we were sitting.
Yes, we were.
On 9/11. So we were still there at least through September of 2001.
And let me tell you what, when we were sitting there doing that show, in no way, shape, or form did we think we'd be sitting here right now talking about the end of it 18 years later.
Are you kidding? I mean, it's been so far beyond anything that anyone, and not only didn't we expect it, I guarantee you no one else did.
And I think that was the beauty, is they left us alone.
I've said this many times. We are a testament to the value of low expectations. No one cared what we were doing.
Yep.
So by the time anyone figured out we had a show, we had kind of figured out our show.
Figured it out.
You don't get that. It's actually an advantage. It feels like a disadvantage when you start. Like, no one cares about us. No one's promoting us. No one even knows we exist. Instead, what happens is when you put a show on and there's enormous amounts of attention and there's a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure.
And a show like this one, you don't figure out in a day.
No.
Like I don't have a tape of our first day or even anything from our very beginning. But I guarantee you, if you listen to it now, we'd be like, oh my God, listen to how awful we sound.
That's where I am. You the first day, I don't have a recollection of the first 7 years.
Until we went on television, Gola will not even verify that we exist.
It's all hazy to me right now.
Yeah. Basically, the first thing he remembers was Letterman. The first time we went on Letterman, that's the first thing that he can actually
Because I got to sit next to Dave, and you were so mad about it.
That is the one thing I've never gotten over. Is all those times. We went on that show 11 times, 12 if you include the time we got bumped.
Yeah, we did. April Fool's Day. We actually thought it was an April Fool's joke.
So the time we
Until we were riding home after not being on.
The time we got bumped, neither of us sat next to him because we never got on the stage. But every one of those times you sat next to Dave.
Yes, I did.
I hated that.
And Dave requested that.
He did. He liked you way better than he liked me. There's no question about it. He tolerated me. He enjoyed you. Listen, I get it. I understood
we went on Seth Meyers. Were you sitting next to him then? I think because you were, Northwestern guy.
I think so.
I think you got to sit next to him. Yeah.
I will neither confirm nor deny that I sent an advance note. That I sent a note ahead of time saying, please put me next to Seth.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump! Should we be like in tandem? Tandem? That's a great idea! Are you a certified instructor? No, but I love parachutes and I love people! Here we go!
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.